YouTube? Hope everyone's having a good time. I'm just doing this because I feel like this debate needs a little bit more context than the rest of my debates. This was not a hardcore debate. Horseradish is my buddy. His offspring is in debate at their high school, and he will be judging his offspring and their team debating this subject coming up very soon. So he wanted to talk through it with me. He wanted to try to parse out all of the different ideas and facts of the manner and basically try to just have a better understanding of the topic because he feels that it would help him judge the topic better. We are not going at this for a winner or a loser. And also, we got off topic a lot. There are quite a bit of cuts compared to most of my debates. That is just because I'm cutting out the completely irrelevant stuff that we talked about. So yeah, just try to follow along. There might be a couple of spots where the context is a little bit weird. Just roll with it because it is just way too much unnecessary stuff to keep in, to be perfectly honest with you guys. If you wanted to see it all, join the stream, twitch.tv/gorpsync. I'll be there every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday at 8 o'clock Pacific time until whenever I feel like it. And you will get to see the uncut version of everything we do. Almost all of my content is taken from my stream. So if you want to see the original, you want to see it sooner, any of that, you go to the Twitch and you can see it there and join the community. Anyways, hope you guys enjoy this debate. I had a lot of fun with it, and see ya. Horseradish, would you like to introduce yourself to my chat real quick? Because some of them don't know you.
Well, I'm sorry that you don't know me yet. I am the horseradish. I am a streamer, and I don't really know how to introduce myself. I talk a lot, and some people seem to like listening to it, so I'll keep doing it as long as somebody's listening. I like politics. I'm kind of a current events addict, and I'm a centrist moderate who believes that the solution is probably somewhere in the middle, and that goes for any problem. So
And are you twitch.tv/the horseradish? That's your thing, right?
So the horseradish show. I am also the horseradish, and I'm also the horseradish on kick.com. We were originally going to have a formal debate, and you were going to go with the pro, and I was going to go with the neg. But I actually had a trick up my sleeve if we were going to do it formal. And that was because I preferred the neg for
Sneaky, sneaky snake.
There's diplomacy or bullets, right? And I was
That's
going to
not
go
really
with,
what the two options are.
okay.
There's kind of three options.
There is three options. And I was counting on the fact that most people aren't going to hear or think about that third option, and I'm betting
Come
that
on,
the
buddy,
third
you
option.
know
I
me.
know you would, boo, but I'm again, like I said, this is why I wanted to have this conversation with you. So why don't you tell me what the third option is?
We got diplomacy, we got military, and we got hands off.
Stay the fuck out of it. And that's exactly what I was going to say. Because the fact is, and I was actually kind of advising them that if they were to build their case properly, they'll be able to use that third option as pro orc neg. Like, depending on how they define their terms, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yes, we should encourage more diplomacy through our proxy allies in the region. Or no, we need to not have diplomacy. We need to have other people doing the diplomacy. Like I said, how they frame it, they can use that same case, and it's a solid case. Because, like I said, I really don't think. I'm curious to see how many people actually, or how many students, you know what I mean, high schoolers, are going to use that tact for the resolution. You know what
It's
I mean?
only
Or
going to be those like crazy, like actually into politics ones.
yes,
Everyone else going to right over their head.
Exactly. So that said, if we since we both know exactly the direction that one would go and how that would play out, because that's my actual stance on the subject, is how is about we stay out of it, right? Coming from a pro, do you believe that the US is able to negotiate on behalf of internal conflicts in the Middle East and Western Asia?
I think that the U.S. can help. They cannot do everything. I would never claim that we can do everything. We don't have that kind of power. But I think that we can help. We can provide aid in humanitarian crises, especially. And we can set forth, we can basically be, at the very least, a mediator between these countries who currently are unwilling to negotiate. So, because I mean, this was specifically about like internal conflicts. We have things like Israel Palestine, where the United States can help be a mediator. We have Turkey and everyone, honestly, Saudi Arabia and Yemen, like all of these things that are generally the two countries involved don't want to talk to each other. We can push them towards that at the very least. And also, we have personal interests in this, so we should.
So that's actually good that you brought that up because that was what I was going to say. My concerns come from the fact, and what I was explaining to them as well was at the end of the day, in my opinion, in order for somebody to, we are talking about trying to negotiate in theocracies. They have nothing, no reason to go to a diplomacy table. An
They do.
internal conflict, again, most of these people believe that their religion is the reason and they think they're right because of their religion. It is basically impossible to negotiate with a religious zealot, okay? Unless they are worried for their existence. But if the religion itself teaches you that losing your life in favor of that religion is a good thing, what do you have? What can you threaten them with? If they believe that their death is a sacred thing, how the fuck are you going to get into the table, right? Especially if so I guess where I'm going with this is that in order for negotiations to work, someone has to have a stick. Okay. And I would
Which the
say
US
that
has without military power.
that's what I was about to say. America serves better purpose as the stick that's waiting in case the negotiations fail. And that's not to say that I think that we should be colonial stomping through Middle East or anything like that. I'm saying that we should be encouraging our allies in the region to be negotiating peace deals and to be able to find middle ground. But from what I've seen in most of these conflicts, there's no middle ground to be had. Nobody wants middle ground. They want
So
their way
so
or the
here's the
highway.
thing. Here's the thing. That is not what I meant by the U.S. being that stick. The U.S. being the stick, especially in right now. All right. So this directly applies to right now, not really other times.
Sure.
Worldwide fucking economy horrible.
Yes.
These countries, a lot of these countries are suffering more so than countries in the West. All right. The U.S., while our economy may be kind of shit right now, we are still doing a million times better than these countries. And we have the ability to provide the economic power that they need. So we can rule diplomacy with economic power rather than physical power right now. And also, I'm not that opposed to physical power, but I'd prefer diplomacy.
So again, I prefer the diplomacy as well. I just believe that the US has that for two different reasons. The US should not be involved in the diplomacy. Number one, because somebody has to be holding the stick, but related but distinct is the fact that the person who is holding the stick is always going to negotiate for their own best interests, not the best interests of the region in question. So
Yes.
whether it's Russia or whether it's China or whether it's the US, we're always the big stick involved is always going to be trying to cater to their interests, not necessarily to the interests of the region. And so the US, by staying out of it, but waiting in the wings as the big bully if that needs be, right? Then I feel like that's a better purpose for like the boogeyman, essentially. Like I hate to say it, but that's kind of what we've already become in the Middle East because of our existing fuck ups. So maybe we just lean into that.
I would say yes, except let's think strictly on like numbers of countries right now. In terms of US allies, or like sort of allies at the very least, we've got Saudi, we've got the UAE, we've got Egypt, we've got Israel.
Yeah.
That's it. And then you have Iran in there that has a lot of power and influence, not necessarily power, but influence over a lot of these countries. Iran, what are they powered by? Do you know?
Iran? Who are
Yeah,
they backed by, you mean? Russia.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Russia,
Sorry. When you say
I
powered
feel
by, I'm
like,
like, I don't
yeah,
think they
that
have
it was the wrong choice of
nuclear
words.
power plants.
It,
Coal? Oil? No, but
no,
yes, they are
they're powered
backed
by Russia,
definitely by Russia. Yes.
and so I think okay, you and I probably on a personal note at the very least agree that Russia and China are not the best of countries. Not horrible, maybe you think, but not the best of countries. Can
I
you get on
fear,
board with that?
I fear them both for significant reasons. Yes.
Yes.
I would
So
say they are both considerable threats.
let's think worldwide. I would say that Russia and China having a lot of power is not necessarily a good thing.
Fair enough. Yes.
So, whenever the US starts to lose influence over these countries, they turn directly to Russia and China
Yes, they
because
do.
they need the support that the US once offered.
So
So, in
you say
order for the betterment of the entire region and the world at large, the US should keep their power rather than letting Russia and China take over the region and just making things worse.
so I hear what you're saying, and I agree. But what do you mean by support? Because I'm saying that we're there to be the big dick swinging if we need to be. We're
But we
there to
already need to be.
support. So we don't want to stick the big dick in where it doesn't belong. Okay. Like we don't want to interfere because our past interferences have led to us basically being the villain of the world in a lot of people's eyes, especially in that region. Right.
I agree with you. I also don't like our past interferences. But just because we fucked up in the past doesn't mean we can't swing the dick around in a good way. Even if some people might not like it. Because there is a good amount of these countries that do want the US to be present. They want the US to support them and not their enemy, but they want the US to be present.
So real quick, I unfortunately do not speak Russian, hooligan, but
You got the Russian chatters.
I appreciate you being here. Hopefully, you're not saying anything too horrendous. Now, second of all, I have concerns when it comes to, so I tend to err towards American isolationism, okay? Because we have the resources and have proven post World War II, really even leading up to World War II, really from the Revolutionary War to, I'd say, the year 2000, we demonstrated an ability to take care of ourselves pretty damn well. We built ourselves up to be the economic powerhouse that we were because of the abundance of resources that we have. Okay. Now, anytime we have international allies, we are inherently giving them a rubber stamp to their atrocities. So every time, you mentioned Israel, right? Or Saudi Arabia. All of the things that those countries do that go completely antithetical to American ethics and morals, we turn a blind eye because they're our ally, right? So when
Yeah.
there are soldiers literally having sex with little boys against their will, American soldiers are turning their fucking heads to the side and saying, "Hey, it's not my fucking horses." Okay?
Okay, pause. Not worse than what our soldiers did in
Read.
the last
Sure,
20 years.
sure. Again, there's been plenty of atrocities on our end as well, but I'm getting at the fact. So if we call ourselves, so the Israeli conflict is the biggest one. Let's use that one as the best example. The Israel Palestine conflict. Okay. It's easy to think that either one of them is the demon in this story, but both of them have done their fair share of bullshit against the other. Okay. Now, who thinks what's justified or who thinks that they have what claim to what or whatever? Either way, we yell at one side of that conflict for what they're doing and then keep our fucking mouths shut whenever the other side does the exact same thing. And so that kind of hypocrisy is what breeds resentment and makes it so that we're useless in a negotiation. We'll never be accepted in diplomacy because of the hypocrisy of our associations.
I would agree with you, except for one detrimental fact among
Like,
that. So one of the few times I will applaud Biden. Historically, as far as I'm aware, Palestine has been a lot more open to coming to the table, open to coming to talk, whereas Israel has been like, "Fuck you, no, you're a little bitch." Um, but Biden got Israel to basically agree to come to the table. He's waiting for Palestine to agree to it now, but Biden got Israel to agree to come to the table through diplomacy. And that seems like a pretty good sign. I will fully admit that Trump's idea of diplomacy in the Middle East for the last 4 years when he was president were not good. They didn't help the tensions or anything. But if it's done properly, it can work well.
so I also do see, because I have very mixed emotions when it comes to the Israeli Palestine thing, and ultimately I have no say in the matter, right? Like, it's, again, it's not my circus, but we all still have opinions on everything, right? And my understanding is that the reason that Israel believes they have dominion over the area is because it was theirs first, until they got ousted from the region, like in biblical times. And then it got filled in by other people. And then post World War II, the global community said, "Hey, we're going to go ahead and give this back to them now. Okay, thanks. Yeah, y'all just scooch over there. Yeah, we'll just split it down the middle." Right? Like, that's the TLDR of the how that shit came to pass. So in these people's minds, they're like, "It's fucking ours. Like, what do you mean we have to share it?" I get that. Now, you said that about the Palestinians being the ones who are willing to negotiate, but my other understanding is the fact that the the beliefs of the people in Palestine are the type who stone women in the streets. Am I wrong? Is that
Sorry,
not
can you
one of
repeat that? I was reading my chat.
Palestine's, like, I've watched some videos of a children's program from Palestine. I don't remember the name of the show, but it was the most terrifying thing I've ever watched. And it was basically the most horrendous propaganda. I'll send you a link. It was a YouTube documentary. Some of this propaganda makes Hitler look tame. And so, again, like, the things that were said about or against the Jews by Hitler are way worse being said about, hey, coincidentally, about Jewish people,
It's always
but it's
about
said by
Jewish people.
Palestine. It seems to always be about Jewish people. If there was one marginalized community in history that I would say, you know what, you just kind of get a pass, it's the Jewish people.
Oh yeah,
Like,
no, they
because
can do whatever they want. I don't give a fuck.
yeah,
I
they're
don't care.
by everybody at some point, and or damn near everybody.
They could make the conspiracy theories true, and I would say good for you, buddy.
Yeah. No, seriously. Yeah. The Jewish space lasers thing. I was like, fuck yeah, good for them. Anyway. So yeah, so again, like I said, you two chumps who stepped in your own shit. I'm not sure what that means, but sure. Yes, we definitely stepped in our own shit.
I do it every day. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Uh but no, so again, like I said, we I don't believe that America should be interfering directly in any of the stuff, right? That's going on in Western Asia or the Middle East, because I believe that the United States is inherently going to fuck up any negotiations they participate in, because they're doing it for their own good. Now, I understand what you're, and I don't know enough details about Biden getting Palestine or getting Israel to come to the table. Like, that's not, I
I
haven't.
I don't know a ton about it. I know that it was in our brief, and I saw like one other source on it, so I couldn't find a ton on it, but the brief said it, so I trust the brief. Yeah, and then I found another source. I honestly lost it, but I had another source that said something along the lines of this is pushing Israel and Palestine to the peace table or to the negotiation table, but Palestine is not all the way there yet.
So I will admit that Biden being in the Senate for as long as he was, he probably has more diplomatic chops than any president we've had in the last, fuck, my lifetime. Um, so
Yeah, we haven't been very good at diplomacy lately.
not when it comes to presidents. And ultimately, it's the Secretary of State's job, but the president kind of has to go shake hands. And the thing is, each of the presidents we've had has been good at shaking a certain kind of hand, but they haven't been able to shake everybody's hand, right? And
Yeah.
so that's kind of Biden is more likely to be able to, hey, buddy, I'm just being your pal. That he has that whole thing.
Just being your pal.
Yeah, Clinton kind of came close to it, but he even so was not it was not the same. Uh so yeah, so like I was saying, Biden probably does have more to bring to the negotiating table than obviously than say Trump, or even though that's what his whole shtick was, right? Was that he's the
Trump wasn't
master
negotiation. Trump was ask for unreasonable things and then go into the military to say fuck you.
exactly. Well, but that's also the way that both the Georges did, right? And even I
Yeah,
mean,
and the Georges led war crimes, okay?
I'm not the one who calls themselves a Republican or votes Republican. No,
Hey, I
I don't
also
I don't hold it against
fully
them either.
criticize the Republicans.
And once again, like I said, anytime that we're going to get involved in the diplomacy, we're going to try to use it to our benefit. It's possible. I would actually be really interested to have been a fly on the wall of Biden's negotiations, right? I would really have been interested to see what exactly like how much good old Joe had to offer, right? Uh,
Something tells me it wasn't primarily him doing the talking. He's not very good at that, but him and his team did
Whatever,
something.
exactly. That's right, exactly. And how they got that done, I'd be very interested to see. But I mean, I also am curious to see how that plays out because Netanyahu is back in power, right? Like that's like he was just recently reinstated as uh I don't prime minister, lord in chief. I don't remember what they call it in that area,
I don't
but
remember the
he's
name.
the leader. He's back into the leadership, I believe. Uh, so, like I said, if the U.S. was able to get Israel to come to the table, they had to have offered them something. They had
Oh
to
yeah.
have made it to like so. That's my concern. Is do we trust our historically notoriously underhanded and shady government system to be the ones who's negotiating on behalf of not us?
Here's the thing. I believe that the U.S. has done some shitty things in the past, always, worldwide, in every manner. They've done shitty things. We've
Even
done
to us,
shitty things.
even
Yeah,
in our own fucking soil.
but I do think that we have done less shitty things than some of these governments, which means that I think it is more.
Sort of an
We
improvement.
have more of a moral compass in terms of negotiations than some of these governments because we are also running off of whether it be our best interest or whatever, we're running off of some sort of best interest, and also our voting populace is more interested in best interest for a lot of these situations, which would affect people's rankings, and that's like their whole political career. But we have some sort of best interest in mind, other than the spread of what is generally an authoritarian government. And I think that you and I can both agree that authoritarian governments are not usually good. And most of these countries have some form of authoritarianism in their government.
Yes,
So
but
allowing
it's
a
bureaucracy.
yeah,
That's the problem.
but it's allowing a country that doesn't
Don't
have that going
negotiate.
on, allowing a country that doesn't have that going on to be the mediator or to have a hand in the negotiation allows for some sort of fucking moral standard that some of these countries don't seem to have.
But I still say that a country, an ally in that region, is going to be
Our
far
allies
better
don't have
suited.
moral standards either. We've
You
already covered this.
exactly. You
Like,
said that.
our allies are just as shit as a lot of these other countries.
Yeah. So,
They just
well,
are good for our economy, so we keep them around.
then why? That's my problem with international and foreign policy is the fact that we keep doing things for the wrong reasons. Because we
We keep
can't
doing
give
things
up
for our,
moral authority on the globe if we're actually not living up to our own standards.
but we do what's best for us, and generally what's best for the West. That's like generally what the United States policy and actions aim to do. Sometimes they fuck up, but they aim to do that. And I think that just is an overall better than doing best for an individual country or doing best for Russia or China.
Again, okay. So now
It's a
here
it's a
comes the
it's
question.
you have to weigh it because there's no actually good solution here. I don't think.
No, there isn't. But with the Russia or the China intervention, how much are they necessarily negotiating versus they're just saying, "Hey, I'll be your big stick"? I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I don't imagine that the Russian diplomacy engine is that strong, nor China's. I could be completely wrong here, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that that's not what either of those countries is known for, is their diplomatic intervention, right?
This is true.
They're just going to say, "Hey, look, I'll give you guns." I'm okay with us saying that. Like I said, I'm okay. But the problem is then it becomes proxy wars. There's like your solution or your motivation, I should say, is to keep Russia and China from taking control of the region. But if we're intervening exclusively for that's literally the definition of a proxy war. And the proxy wars are what led us to the current situation in the Middle East and the reason that we're the fucking devil to these people already because
Except
of
what
what
I'm
we
actually pushing for wouldn't be any war. It's a bunch of negotiations. It'd be the ending to these already existent wars.
if the negotiations succeed. If they fail, they did nothing. And we're still
Biden
back to square
administration
one.
so far has done multiple things good in terms of negotiations. Right? They've also created
Yeah,
it's
I know.
called the West Asia Quad. They've already made free trade agreement and multiple cooperative arrangements since 2021, which is all diplomatic efforts that have worked in the Middle East and that have seen benefits since Biden's election.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to illustrate examples of, especially in recent times, diplomacy seems to be working a lot better than it has before.
What do you attribute that to? Why do you
Um,
think that is?
there's a multitude of factors. Biden has a lot of experience. As much as I don't like the guy, he has experience in this sort of thing. He knows what he's doing to some extent. And there's also the fact that COVID and the current like global recession have put these countries in a place where they cannot support themselves in the wars that they're doing, and they need to find another solution. They're at a place currently where they need to find a peaceful solution because they cannot sustain what they've been doing anymore. It also doesn't help with some of the sanctions and stuff going on with Russia and these countries being supported by Russia.
So you really believe that it's just economic reasons?
I think it's a big influence on it.
Okay. Well, and you
Because
might be
the
right.
only country that's not really affected by the economics is probably Iran or Iran, but that's mostly because they've been living under these conditions for so long that they've just essentially grown accustomed to it. It's not new.
Yeah. No, that checks out. Well, but I mean, well, and I guess that you're right because the oil. Does Iran have a significant oil industry there?
Iran, I they do have an oil industry, but I was reading something. I didn't write it down. I didn't think it was important. I was reading something about because of sanctions and everything, their oil industry for decades has not been super profitable, and that's part of the reason they've gotten used to the shitty economic situation. Is because
Gotcha.
they've been sanctioned hard, which means they can't actually make the kind of money that, for example, Saudi Arabia can.
So when we talk about American interventionist diplomacy, right? I've heard from many time, or I've heard from multiple sources that most of Middle Eastern leaders' first response is, "Look at what happened to Gaddafi," right?
Yeah,
So they don't even want to have a conversation with us because we told Gaddafi hey, look, step down and we'll keep you safe kind of thing. Like, just knock it off and all that. And then even after he did that, we're like, yeah, we're still going to go ahead and kill you. Well, I mean, we didn't kill you, we'll throw you to the wolves, right? Now, that was many people believe that that was directly due to America's intervention in the entire situation. And that if we'd have just stayed out of it, not only would that leader not have been publicly executed after being sodomized and tortured, but also, and then I think eventually decapitated, at the very least desecrated.
I
But
don't know
whatever,
the details.
it wasn't pretty. Um,
I know
but
that much.
also the societal breakdown that took place in that vacuum, right, was like we can't not take some responsibility for it. And there was literal slave trades in the streets taking place in Libya following Gaddafi's, like, so once again, as I said, if the more we get involved in any of this, the more we have to take responsibility for the consequences that happen, right? For the downstream effects of our intervention, as well as
Yes.
that of our allies. And it's like you said yourself, America has done plenty of their own atrocities. Why would anybody want them sitting down at a peace negotiation? Like, that's not what we're known for.
So here's the thing. We've done a lot of fucked up shit. We've done a lot of fucked up shit specifically in the Middle East.
Yep.
That is a problem. I'm not going to pretend that that's not a problem. And it does hurt the ability for us to still have a solid influence in the Middle East. But assuming, right, assuming we do what I think we should do, in that we establish some sort of consistency. Because what we've had as of late is saying we're going to do this and then changing our mind and then just leaving whoever we promised something hanging. Like it's we do it in the Middle East, we do it in a lot of places. But this is just our has been the US's strategy for some reason for foreign policy for a very long time. We did it to Ukraine. And it's fucked up and it leads countries to not want to actually rely on us and go to countries like Russia and China. Gonna keep going back to that. And
So,
so if we can wait. If
yep,
we can
sorry.
be consistent and if we keep our military out of this shit, I think it will help to fix some of the relationships. And a lot of these countries still do want US influence. They want it to support them. They all want it to support them. But they still kind of want it because it is extremely helpful to have the US backing you. The US backing you is like a golden ticket for almost any country. So, that power that we wield by being that golden ticket, plus trying to actually stay consistent for once in our lives, could allow us to fix some of the relationships we've had in the past and move forward and actually be diplomatic.
So let's have a thought experiment. What do you see as the worst case scenario for Russia or China dealing with what's going on in the Middle East? Why does that,
Iran gets nukes and uses them.
on who?
Whoever the fuck they want. Probably
You
going to be
think,
our allies first.
knowing full well that that's going to lead to an entire thermonuclear fucking global annihilation? You truly believe
They have
they're going
already
to
been
achieve
fine
this?
with borderline continuing wars because of the fact that they want these nukes. I
Once
wouldn't put
again,
it past
their
them.
excuse is that these nukes are for defensive purposes to prevent what happened to Gaddafi, right? That's their excuse, their justification for wanting them. They're not saying, "Hey, I want to drop these on my neighbor," because they know that if they do that, that literally apocalypse is upon them, right? Like that would lead to a global annihilation. Somebody,
But no, I'm
whether
gonna
us
use
or
wait. I'm
go
using
ahead.
your own point against you. They don't care. They think what they're doing is right. They're driven by their religion. They think what they're doing is good and they're just gonna go to heaven if they die, so who cares?
Touche. Well, so fuck. Damn. I hate it when I have to argue against myself.
Yeah, it sucks, doesn't it?
No, well, and so that's obviously a consideration. But to flip that on its head, how much How much is Iran, Palestine? Well, no, see, I don't know. I don't know the Iranian government's motivations. But what I've heard before is that they were doing it defensively. So you again, I don't know if it's a religious, if is Iran a theocracy?
Iran, the
Yeah.
country with the moral police, the
Touche.
whole hijab situation going on right now.
Yeah, no, fair
Yeah,
enough.
yeah, I think they're religious.
Very valid point. That is a good.
The leaders are religious, at the very least.
Okay. Well, then, yeah, then you're that's so okay. So now we're back to being the global police. Now we're back to being the moral authority for the world,
I don't
right?
think that's a bad thing, to an extent. Like, there's plenty of situations where we very well should be right now, the moral police, that we are not. That goes on to a different topic, but it's things like genocides currently occurring that the US is just turning a blind eye to. Like, we should be doing things about this,
We're
and we're
talking
not.
about like the Uyghur Muslims.
Talking about
That,
Uyghurs, talking about, wow, it's slipping, Myanmar, and there's like two or three, I believe, happening in Africa.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and that comes back to what I said earlier about the fact that anytime the US has allies, they're responsible for, or at the very least, morally responsible for the atrocities committed by their allies. And so the best solution to that, because again, our allies are always for the wrong reasons. It's not the people who actually agree with us politically and ethically, it's people who benefit us financially and economically. So our leadership, back to what I've said before, is looking to improve their situation and not try to improve the situation of the region that they're involved with. Like that ties back, I believe, to that fact. To
The, the
that,
thing about the thing about like I agree with you that our allies are shitty in the Middle East, but the problem comes up when all of the options for allies in the Middle East are pretty much just as bad.
so
And you
why do
can't just have no allies in the region because then you have
why
absolutely no influence
why do we need to have influence? They're on the other side of a really big puddle of water.
because atrocities, and also they're like a commercial hub for the entire world and an
But once
energy hub.
again, we can't
That
say
that goes
because
back to economics, but that goes back to the entire world, not just the United States interests.
we can't say because of atrocities when we turn our blind eye to the atrocities that like that's not our fucking motivation. Otherwise, any country that has women being stoned in the streets, what do you call it? A pride killing or a fucking mercy killing or what do they call honor killing?
Honor killing, yeah.
Yeah. So fuck you. No, 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 no. I will stand firm on the no on that. But America's not saying that as a group. Why? We'll go in for weapons
That's
of
the
mass
game of
destruction
foreign
that don't
policy,
exist.
though.
Well, exactly. And that's what I'm saying is so we have proven that we do not have the moral authority to be trying to impose our will on the region. We have made it clear that our will is not necessary. Our if we are willing to turn a blind eye to the atrocities of of our allies, then we obviously do not have the credibility, the moral credibility to impose our morality or ethics in any other region. You see what I'm saying? The fact that we are willing to, we agree that that we are responsible morally for the atrocities of our allies. That means that we are no better than the worst of us.
Can we play a little thought game?
Sure, my
Have you
favorite.
ever done actions that are against your own morals?
I would have to say no because I wouldn't have done them if they were against my morals. I might want my morals to be better than they actually are. But if I did the thing, I obviously had the level of moral flexibility to allow myself to make this exception or to justify this exception. I might want my morals to be the type that would prevent me from doing it, but if my morals were there and they were actual morals, I wouldn't have done the thing.
Okay, so the morals you want, have you gone against those?
Sure, everybody has.
Yes.
Absolutely.
The morals you want. Did you instill that on your kid? Did you try to instill that on your kids?
Yes and no. I lead by example. I firmly believe that leading by example is, and I'm not trying to sidestep any question that I like. This is an honest answer.
Yeah, you're
Uh,
fine. Yeah.
I firmly believe, and I've actually had this conversation with my kid, that it's like, look, you started saying sir and ma'am because you saw me doing it to everybody, not because I slapped you fucking upside the head if you didn't. You know what I mean? Like, I just led by example. I get up and I go to work every day, hard work, and I live a decent life because of it. My kid's gonna see that, right? So I try to be a good person. I try to be as nice as I can to everybody around me because I know that my kid's watching, and because I believe that being that way makes a better world. Have there been times when I wasn't a nice person? Yeah, absolutely. Right. But
Did you ever talk to your kid about it and did they see it and you talked to your kid about it and been like, hey, that was bad of me to do. I shouldn't have done that. Or something along those lines.
sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Shit. I
That
say it,
so
I
so
apologize.
so you're saying you can instill these morals even though you've broken them.
I like
You
what
see
you
what
did
has
there.
been done
I,
there.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
That was very clever. Yes. However, I would say that my credibility has been at the very least exercised, if not completely broken. Uh, that otherwise you're there's a fine line between hypocrisy and acceptance of one's shortcomings and flaws. Power and control is the only motivation that the United States has for interfering in Middle East and Western Asian conflicts, right? Even if money was no longer an issue, even if energy was no, if resources, none of this mattered anymore, we would still find a way to have control over people because that is the core of human nature, is to try to control others. Now, some of us again choose or find a way to rise above it, but I truly believe that it's a choice, that instinct is still there and you say to yourself, "No, don't do that. Don't be like that. Don't be that guy." Right? So, again, it's a choice. And morality and ethics are a choice that are made on a constant basis. I honestly believe that even the biggest saint on the planet still has some thoughts that if you heard them would curl your toes. It's
Oh yeah.
not what they think, it's what they do. It's the decisions that they make. And so, like I said, do you think for a second that the most callous murderer on death row didn't know beforehand that killing's a sin, that you shouldn't do that? Like, no, they knew that. It's not like that morality doesn't exist in them. They just made a different choice. They chose to go against human nature. They knew what they were doing was not a good guy thing to do, and they said, "It's okay, I want to do it anyway." Why? Because they didn't have control of their situation. That's what I believe almost all crime, if not all crime, maybe even all crime, comes down to. United States. Well, you made a correlation there, which was an impressive correlation, make no mistake. But you made a correlation to the fact that I am fallible but still credible, right? I would say that if it was a crime, if the I'm trying to think of the best way to word this. If I continuously bully people, I should not be telling other people not to bully because I have no credibility in this. I am a hypocrite. If I steal from people, I should not be mad at people who steal. I would be a hypocrite. Okay. Now, yes, I may have stolen something once and learned my lesson from it and now say, please don't steal. But I'm not actively committing that moral crime, right?
Okay. Okay. Can I?
And for that
Yeah.
matter, also, if I steal things and I say don't kill people, well, that's not what I'm guilty of. If you're guilty of the thing you are trying to influence, then I would say your credibility is suspect at the very least.
Exactly. So, going back to the topic, one of the big drivers, at least mentioned drivers, for pretty much any like big intervention that the United States tries is instilling democracy.
Yes, that's almost every time. That's what we're trying to do,
Yep.
supposedly, or our
So
version
that
of democracy.
we have democracy of some sort. So we are not being like a fucking dictatorship while saying you need to be a democracy. We are
Because
also not committing
still,
for some of the other countries in the region. We are not committing war crimes on our own people or like human fucking crimes against humanity on our own people. While some of these countries are. Some of these countries that we want to be involved in. We have committed war crimes in the past.
against our own
And we
people.
shouldn't. And it does. I will admit that hurts credibility in saying don't commit war crimes, but I think you should still be allowed to say don't commit war crimes, right? Like, we shouldn't do it. We should tell ourselves that as well. But I will also say our war crimes, from everything that I have seen, is a matter of people slightly lower down that were saying this is okay and hiding it rather than top down. Whereas a lot of these other countries, I have seen it be top down instilled that this is perfectly fine. Like, fuck up these people. They are absolute evil. You know, like that kind of ideology from some of these countries in war. And I think there is a distinction to be made there.
So,
Both are bad, but there's a distinction.
so earlier you mentioned the atrocities that Americans have taken have played out on other countries, right? While yes, some of these countries that we're talking about might be doing these atrocities to their own people, they usually don't consider those people to be their own people. In those cases, the people who are having the atrocities committed against them are typically somehow othered in advance, right? And America is notorious for othering people. It's kind of been in our history the whole time. And in
We're
fact, there are
kind of
plenty
really good at it.
Kind of, sort of, yeah. There are plenty
Yeah.
of people in today's society who feel that there are war crimes being committed against them. And a case could be made that they're not wrong. Now,
Okay. Can we
I
pause
know
for a second?
that's a loose definition, but because we do
Just
it,
in
sorry,
general,
go
can
ahead.
we pause for a second?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Someone has asked me to get spicy water. I don't know if you would like to join me in the spicy water, or if you would like me to wait till after this. I can still have this full conversation with some spicy water. But
Go ahead with your spicy water. I've still got my spicy plant, so.
and wait, I have a perfect segue to bring this back to the topic for a little bit.
Cool.
I think that we should run U.S. foreign policy in the same way as what's his face Churchill ran his country in World War II. Do you know how he ran his country in World War II?
Trying to think. I know this.
He was
But I'm trying to
hammered
think how I would
24/7.
describe. Oh,
He
I see.
was
Just
hammered
drunk. Okay.
24/7.
I
I
thought you were
think we
talking
should do
about like.
that.
Okay, I gotcha. So all of the entirety of Congress should just be shit faced the whole time,
Entirety of
smoking,
Congress,
smoking
the
cigars.
president, everyone in the government, whenever foreign affairs come up, start drinking.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
Churchill,
that's
it worked out for Churchill.
it. Well, it worked out for England, but we're not British, and
We could try it. I think we drink more than them. We drink harder than them.
oh my God, no. Are
We
you
don't drink more. We drink
serious?
harder.
That would be an
I'm not. I'm
interesting.
not talking. I'm not talking about the
No, I know what
Irish.
you're saying. No, 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 no. I know what you're saying, and I think that you might have hit it on the head. We don't. We drink harder. Yeah.
Yes, we get
They
hammered. They just drink all the time.
exactly. They're always a
I
little
think.
buzzed and only could get smashed on the weekends or whatever.
Yeah,
But
I think we should do when Congress is in session about foreign affairs. You are hammered, bro. See what happens.
and I would actually like to see the same situation, but with mushrooms.
I
I
want to
think
see the
that's the way
House
to
just all together hammered. I want to see what happens, like the 500 and whatever of them hammered all together.
go. There would be fights.
There
There
would,
would
but
be
it'd be entertaining.
there would be nudity.
It'd be the same reason I watch hockey.
Exactly. Yeah. No, the fact is that if our government was meeting to try to actually make the country better, if the majority of our government was motivated by America's well-being, I think that I think we would be in a much better position. And I
You know what I
don't know
think might
that
help that?
alcohol is going to be the solve to that.
You know what
But
I think might actually help that? A genuine political education of the public. Because
yes,
right now, all of our representatives and everyone is beholden to who voted for them, really. Because if they are not, it is political suicide. Now,
yes,
if these people who voted for them knew what the fuck was going on in politics, they might vote better
yes.
and they might actually hold their politicians to a decent standard.
I feel like although there was a bunch of there was bread on either side of the meat, it was still a good sandwich.
We still
Uh,
talked about stuff, yeah.
exactly. So that said, I appreciate it. I will. I don't. Everybody, this is Gorps Inc. on Twitch, who's been hanging out with me tonight. Give him a listen, give him a like, and follow, and all that jazz. And I will start seeing y'all here on Monday through Thursday daytimes is when I intend to be streaming
Oh,
usually.
he's streaming
The
a
only
bunch.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be doing the political stuff in the daytime, and I'm going to be back over on Twitch at night for the other thing, for the non-political stuff. So